All right. And we're gonna try to talk about today sexuality and spirituality, which is really interesting because I just got an email about this the other
Really?
day. Yeah, a therapist had emailed me and was like, "Hey, I'm dealing with some people who are struggling with sexuality, and spirituality, and where the two meet." And so she asked for some book recommendations. And so for anybody who's listening to them, I'll go ahead and give you the book recommendations I gave
Yes.
her, where the first one was Sexual Intelligence by Dr. Marty Klein. Sexual
Oh,
Intelligence by Dr. Marty Klein, which I refer that book always to everybody. Yep, that's it. The second one is um, Sheet Music by Dr. Kevin Leman. Sheet Music by Dr. Kevin Leman. And that one, Dr. Lehman is, I don't know if he's a pastor, but it's definitely kind of a Christian based one. And so in that one, I think he talks about no sex until marriage. So sometimes I don't know who
yeah.
I'm particular to who I give that one to. Because if
Mhm.
somebody's already in condemnation, I'm not trying to give them something that's going to make them feel more condemned. So um, I think with my clients, when I'm dealing with them, first of all, we just talk about the differences in the expectations of the world today and a
Mhm.
lot of the um and just how it was in biblical times. Let's just say how it was in biblical times. So in biblical times, you married, like somebody arranged your marriage, you married, then you had sex with the person, then you got to know the person.
Mhm.
Okay. So marriage was a ceremony to say now these two people are together and we acknowledge that this is a new family unit that has been created. Okay. Then that couple has sex as a way of consummating the marriage. So now the two have become one. They are now married. Now the two can now go get to know each other.
Mhm.
You know, now they can be alone together. Now they can learn personalities. But also in a lot of those cultures, the men didn't hang out with the women. So it wasn't about getting to know anybody. It was coming together for the purposes of procreation and creating a family, maybe
Mhm.
coming together to work together and to get some things done like as a family unit. But it wasn't this whole, oh, we best friends forever to the end of time. Like
Right.
it wasn't that. Um, in some of the biblical cultures, like the women slept in one house, the men slept in another house. And so understanding that in today's culture, because
Mhm.
today's culture, we do it absolutely different. Now we think people need to get to know each other. Then they may or may not have sex with each other, and then they may or may not get married. Like, and so it's really, really different. And so acknowledging that, I think also acknowledging that, and I do this with several clients, and I really think it's very intriguing and interesting to see their expressions. So we
Mhm.
talk about in biblical times. No, no. First, I'll say something to the effect of, "You believe God. You believe in God." Okay, so let me do it with you. You believe in God. Do you believe that God created the body? Do you believe that He was like very thoughtful and intentional with how He created the body? Okay, great. All right. So according to God's plan and design, the body is ready to procreate at usually what age?
12, 13,
Well, 13.
sometimes 11.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So God created the body to start procreating that at that age. Thus, you have to start having sex at the age to procreate. That was God's design. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Culture, for a good a part of history, lined up with that design.
Mhm.
People were able to get married that early. So the same time that they was feeling feelings and feeling tingling sensations was also the time that they are now in a
Very.
marital unit, getting to know somebody who they can experience those tingling feelings with.
Mhm.
Okay. Today's world, culture has changed, specifically in America. We'll just talk about America. And so America was like, no, no, no. You don't need to get married. We did keep the no sex until marriage thing, but you don't need
Yeah.
to get married. You need to finish your high school diploma first. Like get your high school degree so you can get out and make something of yourself and da da da. So then the marital age moved up to 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then no, no, no. You don't need to get married after high school. That's way too young. You have plenty of time. It's okay. Wait, wait until you get established in your career, you go to college, and then you can get married. So then that moved that marital age up to 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now it well, you really can't get a good job with just a bachelor's degree. So therefore, you probably need to go ahead and get your career started, get your master's degree, get settled, get a little money in the bank, have all of your fun and everything before you decide to settle down. And so now our average marital age hovers around 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I would say in the African American community, it's even higher. I would. I don't know what the statistics are at. Don't quote me on that. I have not read a peer-reviewed article that has said that. I'm just guessing
Mm-hmm.
from my observation, my
Mm-hmm.
own life studies. The ours is
Mm-hmm.
probably higher. Okay. So the culture has changed, but the guy's creation changed. Like, did he go back and say, let me change this body thing because this sex thing ain't lining up with the culture anymore? No. And so we have this huge gap of when the body is ready to have sex and be sexual active, but culture is saying don't do it until here. And so let's say you were a late bloomer
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't get started until 14, 15, but you get married at 29, 30.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good 15, 16 years maybe where you're trying to navigate what your body is doing or not doing sexually with trying to date and figure it out. And I don't think I didn't hear, I feel like a good understanding or a good lesson of what we were supposed to do kind of during that
Mm-hmm.
time period, or even acknowledging that. And so I think the rhetoric I heard was no sex before marriage. The thing that burns me up about that is y'all didn't tell us half of African American females won't get married.
Mm-hmm.
So save that part. Half of y'all
Oh,
ain't gonna get
wow.
married. So half of y'all ain't never gonna have sex. So somewhere stick it somewhere and sit down. If you waiting on marriage to have sex.
Ooh,
Okay. So that's part of that. Right. That one. Oh, it
that
hurt.
one hurt.
Right? So and this is the other thing that burns me up. If you go to okay, y'all, I'm on a tangent here.
Run it.
I'm
Go.
going. So I need for y'all not to send me hate mail. All right. If you look, I'm going to say in the part of the African American churches that I've been in, and I'm speaking to my lived experience, it's always more females than males.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And so I like thinking back, all these pastors like, wait till you get married. Here's your Boaz. Da 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 da. It's 3 dudes over there, and it's 30 women over here. What,
Mm-hmm.
talk to me about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? How? What? That math ain't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just expected for what? God to start turning men into rocks for all of them women? Okay. Okay. Just
The,
like you like I felt like nobody thought that out or looked at it or paid attention to the reality. We just gonna pray about it and keep it.
mm-hmm.
Okay. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
That's exactly what
So
happened.
all that to say is we have a lot of people um oh, we have a lot of people who girl, you touched on the spot. I feel it in my heart. Who are like in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, still trying to figure out how am I supposed to make this sex thing happen, or it's happening and they're ashamed that it happened to them. And they're just not acknowledging, okay, this is the way my body was supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
This is the design of it. I mean, if you are a mammal on this earth, your body should be driving you to procreate,
Yep.
period. Because the species does not want to die. And so, just like COVID, it's going to find ways
I'll find ways.
to find life, to create
Mm-hmm.
life, to do all of those things. And so, we've just got to do a better job, a different job. So, when talking to our clients, like explaining that, helping them realize, um, this is going to be so sad to say.
Say it.
that in some ways we're all statistics. And so
Mhm.
I need you to look at the bigger picture of what's going on and not just take it so personal, and
Mhm.
then figure out how to make the best decisions from there,
Mhm.
you know? And so working with clients, that's usually what we figure out. Okay, so the math ain't
Mhm.
mathing. What does
Mhm.
that mean for you? What do you need to do differently? How do you want to handle this differently? What do you want to do?
Mhm.
Um, Looking at that. And then I think from a spiritual perspective, we can say things like, God will throw our sins as far from us as the west is from the east or the north from the south. I can't remember which one it is. Or God loves us unconditionally. He'll always forgive us. And yet we'll beat ourselves up as if like God is standing over us, beating us
Be
up. And so sometimes it's just like, okay, choose your God. Like,
Mhm.
like, and so, and then figure it out from there. And so I think um I don't know. I feel like I hear my dad like, actions have consequences and you're going to hell. You might. But either
Right.
God is forgiving or not. Like,
Right.
and so it's just working with each individual person because I think everybody is probably different on their spectrum of where they are. And so helping them figure out, okay, what set of values and beliefs do they want to adhere to? What can they actually do? How do they want to do it differently? What does that mean?
Mhm.
I also think for some clients, we figure out what does marriage mean to them,
Mhm.
and marriage can really be however you make it or design it. And
Mhm.
so sometimes we just need to give people permission not to live the traditional marriage.
Mhm.
Um, and then I gotta say that traditional marriages aren't even that traditional.
Mhm.
And so this idea is really, I want to say, I'm gonna blame the movie industry, Disney, and church, that
Mhm.
you're gonna meet somebody, fall in love with them, and y'all gonna be happily
Happily
married for the
married
rest
and
of
be
your
happy.
life, and y'all gotta be best friends, and da da da. And that makes me cringe when people like, my partner is my best friend. Please no, please no,
Yeah.
because if something happens to that partner, now you lose your partner, your lover, and your best friend. So could we separate those?
Yeah.
At least have a best friend and a partner. Now, your partner and your lover, I get those two probably do need to be the same thing. But have another friend out there in the world
Have some other
because if something
friends.
happens to the partner, we don't want you desolate, you know?
Right.
So, okay. So that's my 2 cents on it. I don't know if y'all got any clarity or help out of that. I will say um, there comes a point I think where you have to figure out for yourself what your belief system is going to be.
It's my journey.
Yeah. And what's going to work for you and not going to work for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And let me say for all of you guys, uh that's how I became a sex therapist. So that's
Me.
probably why it hit so hard. Hit to the heart. Y'all cannot see me hitting my heart. Okay. Is it was this, you know. So at about 30, when I'm in church and I'm working my way up in ministry and I'm looking around like, wait a minute, all the people who having sex is married and all the people who are virgins is not married. Something is not right with this picture. Something's
Yep.
going on. Um, and so in my graduate program, I was already going to school for because I was already like, I feel like I'm not living my purpose. So I was already in grad school. Oh, and so one of my teachers was a sex therapist,
Mhm.
and she and I remember the day, and so she said, there comes a point in life where you realize that all your values have been handed down generation to generation, like clothing. And so there will come a time where you have to look through your closet and see what values work for you and what
And
values
what
don't.
does not?
And if they don't, then you can give those away and adopt some new ones. Just like you can go take those clothes to Goodwill and go get some new ones that fit and work for you.
Mhm.
And at that time, that was uh, because I was raised very fire and brimstone. This is your set of values.
Yep.
And not just this is a book of possible values. see which ones you can deal with, rock with, see your interpretation of it. No, this is how we interpret it, and this is what we believe. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, this is how you have to live. And if you don't live according to the way we say you're going to live, you're going to hell. Period. Point blank. Anyway, and he go 5 scriptures to let you know that. And so, when it just really felt like, okay, but y'all promised me all this stuff, and I'm supposed to have a big house, and the guy that's gonna have give me a BMW, and like just craziness. so so it started not working, and it was like the cracks in the foundation. Like, wait a minute, this the math ain't mathing on this. Um, and so that hence started my kind of demise. I was like, me and God are back together though. So
Mm-hmm.
me and the church, we still look iffy. We back together, but I'm just looking at him suspect. But me and the church are back together. But me and God got to back together rather quickly. Yeah. Um, and so we're probably not. Well, probably quickly.
Natalie.
Compared to some people, it took me a couple of years. Had to work through a lot. So doing therapy workshops, a whole graduate program, a whole certification in sex therapy. We finally got it together, and um. So at one point, I don't know what the video on the website is saying these days, but at one point I had a website and I was like, we are the people who had to learn the thing to teach the thing to get our own healing. Like we didn't get here. Um, like we just didn't wake up like, oh, I think
Right,
I want to be a sex therapist. I
right.
think for all of us, it was like blood, sweat, and tears of figuring out our own lives
Yeah,
and then being at a place where like, okay, yeah, I can help somebody else.
right.
So yeah. And I had a client like that this week and I was like, I'm so glad you're with me. Yeah, it took me about 5 years. I think we can get you through this in like 6 months to one.
Mm-hmm.
So glad my experiences can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, that's our work and I love our work. So what are you hearing people say about what they're struggling with religion, spirituality, and beliefs and sex and all of that?
I mean, everything you just said,
Hmm.
everything. I have a client who was raised deep in the church, and she struggled with her own
Hmm.
sexual maturity, her own
Hmm.
sexual intelligence, because
Hmm.
everything that she's been told, is
Yeah.
directly going against what she's feeling.
Yeah.
And
That part.
yeah, I relate to that. So we had a conversation, and I wanted to approach, like, even though I'm the clinician, she's the client, like I wanted to approach it more like a collaborative conversation, because these conversations don't happen as often as they need to.
Hmm.
And I also feel like there's not enough like resources to connect
Yeah.
dots out here. A lot of the resources that I found, like researching for this client, had to
Hmm.
do with like LGBT and their transition
Yeah.
from religion to spirituality. I mean, really, yeah, religion to sexuality. And I'm just like, okay, I'm glad that these resources are out there. However, we got
Yeah.
heterosexual men who, and who don't have as much, who don't have the resources. And um I mean, my story is similar to yours. This is why I'm in sex therapy.
Right.
Why? And
Right.
I see the need
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
information for everyone, not
Hmm.
just,
Hmm.
for everyone. Um
Yeah.
and like, I was raised Muslim. I
I
was
don't
raised
think I
Muslim.
knew that.
Mhm.
Okay.
My name is Taj Yasmin Omari. I am a Muslim. Well, I was a Muslim child. I had
Okay.
I struggled
Hmm.
significantly. I was
Hmm.
also the only girl.
Oh.
And so to see my brothers be treated differently, for me, I have
Yes.
to cover my hair. I have to wear shirts that come to cover my elbow, cover my knees, all because I have to be modest for their gaze. It was the most
Uh-huh.
confusing
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And all of my questions about sex went unanswered.
Right.
I too feared the fire and brimstone of
Yeah.
hellfire. And it was just the most confusing thing. And I had to go find my own answers.
Yeah.
And I struggled with God a little bit. You know, we was tussling just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. But like you said about values, I had to
Yeah.
discover my own
Mm-hmm.
values outside of being a Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
outside of being my parents' child,
Mm-hmm.
outside of being a Black woman in America. Like I had to find
Mm-hmm.
my own values. And once I opened myself up to being able to experience sexuality, it was a game
Mm-hmm.
changer. But it
Mm-hmm.
started where you mentioned, like the first thing that clicked for me was I have a clitoris with that. And I'm like, if I was created in God's image, right?
Say,
And
uh-huh.
God don't make no mistakes,
Girl,
then why do I
oh my
have
God, that's what my dad would say. Gosh, see why I loved you. See why I
and God
loved you.
don't
Okay,
make
go
no
ahead.
mistakes. So
Really?
why do I have this little ball of nerves that twitches every time? That just be
Right.
twitching and
Right.
twitching. It was so confusing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I just gave into it. I just said, apparently I'm a sexual being. It's just
Right. And so
who I
that's what I
am.
think I learned when I was taking my human sexuality class. And
Oh,
I'm sure my teacher
that
thought
part.
I was crazy. Oh,
I had that
first of all,
experience
when I
too.
was in grad school, I was really
I
anal.
turned up.
But when I took human sexuality, so I met the sex therapist, Angela Colbreth. Y'all, she's excellent. So if anybody ever wants a really excellent sex therapist, Angela Colbreth, she's out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it was group counseling, is when she was talking about the values thing. Because we were all
Mm-hmm.
interested that she was a sex therapist, and she just did an excellent job running the group counseling class. And I was confronted with all kind of issues in that. So it was really interesting. So then I took her human sexuality class. And I promise I stood there the whole time like nobody ever told me any of this. None of this at all. Like none of this. Like there was this um I feel like there was this rhetoric in my head like men are evil and all they want from you is sex and you have to
Oh,
keep them
Natalie.
saved and it was just and so to find out that um yeah, this is gonna sound so crazy. To
Say it.
find out that like men were human beings and that sex was physical touch and that expression of humanity
Mm,
can be beautiful, beautiful, loving, and kind. That it's so much more than whatever I thought it was, which
mm-hmm.
is just an evil thing that probably happened in the dark. Probably at that time, that's what I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking. It's an evil thing that happened in the dark. Um, and so yeah, and so it so that journey now, um, I'm still on the path, but what I'm it gave me is because I know the church didn't intend to do this, um, at all. I know that it was not the intention at all, but it wind up um the way I heard it or was previewing the way I heard it slash perceiving it, because I'm sure that's not what the way is intended. But like male and male sexuality was just like this evil monster that was just going to like kill you and send you to hell when it got finished killing you. And so to now be able to appreciate men and appreciate sexuality and all that it can bring to you as a person and then to a relationship is probably a complete 180, but it's such a gift to
Mm-hmm.
have, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to look at um, the other sex and really respect them and really honor them and really appreciate them was such, you know, and so so that's one of the things was like I wasn't married because, like, the idea, like, so if I'm looking at all men as if you're like this evil thing that's gonna like take me to hell, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, changing that relationship. Now I can like be in a relationship with a man. Like, wow, who
That is
knew?
so
And I know
interesting.
that wasn't the intention of the church, but they got to be real careful. Like, if y'all hear
Yeah.
me, if anybody's listening to this video and you're a pastor or close to a pastor, I'm gonna need y'all to stop making men out to be so evil because it's one of those things where, and we as therapists have to be careful of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the words that I say out of my mouth, how are you hearing them? and maybe we need to check in with that, because it
Mhm.
was um I think it was done out of love, specifically
Mhm.
done out of protection. I know um they had the best intentions, but I still think we gotta tell them, like, y'all gotta watch them words, because then you have
Mhm.
women out here like pushing away as opposed to coming closer.
Can I tell you? Um, it's like as I'm hearing you say this,
Mm-hmm.
like I have a similar, it's very interesting. I learned this lesson differently.
Mm-hmm.
I got to that lesson in a different track, right?
Right.
Because okay, in the Muslim community, or at least in my Muslim community,
Mm-hmm.
which was very African American, but what's interesting about Islam is even though we're African Americans, we still adopted their
Mm-hmm.
culture, Islamic culture, which is different from the
Mm-hmm.
religion, but that's a whole nother topic. I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
say that. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Islamic traditions were superimposed onto our culture, and it really didn't fit with
Mm-hmm.
Black American culture. So that was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a part of that was me being a young lady going to the masjid, and
Mm-hmm.
the experiencing how we're treated as women,
Mm-hmm.
because men are held, higher. They're on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Even the way our services were set up, the men sit in the front, the women and children sit in
Yeah.
the back. And it's like we don't have a voice, we don't talk. It's
Right.
all the men.
Yes.
Um, and so I just remember turning 14, 15, and the other sisters, would grab my hand and be like, there's no ring. Let me introduce you to brother Rashid over here. Let me introduce you to brother
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad over here. Let me introduce you. And so like from that perspective, I didn't want sex because it just felt like
Yeah.
you're selling me off to this domineering presence, right?
Mm-hmm. Hold on,
Just,
girl. It's 10:02. Let me make sure I don't have a 10 o'clock client.
oh
Oh,
wow.
I know. Okay. Keep
That's the
talking.
topic. But yeah, it felt very just like
Uh-huh.
you're selling me like I'm an item, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
14 and I don't want to meet Brother Rashid. I don't, Brother Kadeem. I don't want to meet them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was real confusing because suddenly my value started to decrease the older I got,
Yeah.
the more years I did not have this ring on my finger.
Yeah.
And then Taj goes to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very similar
Okay.
experience. So in high school, I knew I wanted to study psychology. So I took a lot of AP courses.
Mm-hmm.
In my freshman year, I was in sophomore, almost
Mm-hmm.
junior level psych
Mm-hmm.
classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it was Sex and Society.
Oh.
And that
Mm-hmm.
class is why I am becoming a sex therapist, that class. The
Wow.
first day, and this was a lecture hall. The
Uh-huh.
first day, the teacher said, I want y'all to shout out every word you know that describes sex. And she was going to write them on the board. And so we're just yelling everything out. The first word is, I didn't want to.
Right, right. Go ahead. Gotcha, gotcha.
Screw, nail, hammer, banging, like just, I mean, we was
Mm-hmm.
just shouting stuff out. She had filled that whole board up before one person said, making love.
Right.
One person. And she stopped, put the cap on her pen, and was like, I want y'all to notice how long it took for a woman to say making love. And understand
Wow.
that sex is framed in a very male gaze in this society. And we are going to
Mm.
balance that out in this class. I fell out. I fell out my chair. I said, oh, I know what I'm doing in life.
Wow.
I had
Yeah.
never heard. One, I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
how male dominated our
Mm-hmm.
language about sex was, how I'm just gonna say this word, abusive our language about sex was. All of
Mm.
these terms are just like, I mean, even like modern, like saying I hit that. Okay. You hit me. Like it's still
Gotcha.
like, aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
These words, our language for sex are. I hadn't realized it till it was plastered in front of my face. And then I also hadn't realized that I hadn't made space for me in my conception of sex,
Mm.
for me as a woman,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, where do I fit other than the necessary part, like the other
That, oh my
partner
God, that's such a good point.
in
Yes.
this space?
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, that's when I like started to focus on my own like
Yeah.
sexual discovery. It's not just something that I have to do in order to have a baby. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just, my societal requirement as a Muslim girl. It's just like to get married and be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And very soon after that class is when I told my parents I didn't want to be Muslim. And they was like, we could tell. They was like, I mean, you're not telling us anything new. So as long as you have,
We can
as
see this
long as
life
you
wasn't
have
working for you.
a faith and a foundation, we're fine. I was like, oh, thank
Oh,
you.
that was so fabulous of your parents.
It
Okay, I
was.
applaud you guys. So,
They did a
okay,
good job. They did a
okay.
good job.
All right, I don't have a client, but I do need to wind this down. So, I will say, everybody listening to us out there who may get this, we are talking about our lived experiences, and we understand that your experiences maybe have been very, very different.
Yeah.
But if there's some places where you were saying a amen or I get that, or oh my God, I never thought about that. Know that we are here to help you and support
I'm
you,
here
you
to
know.
talk about it.
And I think us too, but I'll say my whole staff, like I think we are dedicated to helping you guys and supporting you guys and figuring it out. Because I think the
Mm-hmm.
other part of this is um I felt alone in the process.
Mm-hmm.
I felt alone in the process
Very
of
long.
trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And I have a best friend. And it's so funny how it went. So I'm in grad school, and so then I started going like the sex therapy route. She wasn't in school, and so she went into like this ministry
Wow.
about well, she was really preaching abstinence. Like she started doing like hotel meetings and everything else to really start preaching. So it's like she doubled down in it. And so it's just very interesting to see us with these similar backgrounds come to the same thing, like something ain't working here, da 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 da.
Mhm.
And she went deeper into the faith and then wound up crashing
Wow.
later on because it still wasn't those fundamental things about this is how you get in a relationship, this is how you be in relationship, like how like and these are parts of a relationship. And so none of that was present. And
Mm.
so it still wind up like crashing. But it was just funny, like when it hit both of us, I kind of started going sex therapy and learning more, and she went more toward abstinence and started preaching
Wow.
more. And it's really interesting. So
So
anyway,
interesting.
all that to all that to say is we're here to help y'all. And so
Yes.
we're here. So feel free to give us a call, make it a session, make an appointment, and we wish you guys the best. So happy
Mhm.
Friday.